So all of my stories were originally going to be based in Solihull, where I live, but they kind of progressed more towards Birmingham. My first one is going to be based on the Peaky Blinders. I had a conversation with one of my friends a few weeks ago, and she told me about her granddad's dad being one of the runners for the currently known gang, hopefully well-known gang, the Peaky Blinders. When thinking of Birmingham as a city, if I ever go to another city, it's one of the first things that is mentioned to me. My first original focus will be looking into the differences between the commercialised Peaky Blinders in comparison to the original gang, which was called the Birmingham Gang. However, I'm going to develop into using gang culture today as my main focus. When looking into gang culture, a lot of the same sentences appear and are used, and which all drive down to the lack of identity or the confusion that people have with identity or belonging. And to aid this research, I'd like to head down kind of like the psychological aspects of identity by reading papers, books, and looking at photography as well. My second story, again based in Birmingham, is going to be about the Birmingham pub bombings inquest, and that's just been reopened after a sister of one of the ladies that was killed campaigned for answers. In 1991, the 6 people that were convicted were released after evidence came about showing their confessions were made using violent acts with the police, and some of the evidence was falsified. 21 people died after 2 bombs went off in 2 different pubs, but the unity of the city, including the Irish and British civilians, to support one another is a key point of research I want to look to explore. One of the main focuses I'll be looking at will be speaking to a lady called Mary, who was present during the bombings, and being a nurse, she gave blood transfusions to any of the 69 people who were injured during the blast. And then my conversation with her will, I think, be the main driving point for this concept. The reason for this image, it's just a photograph of 2 women in Aston. One's Catholic and one's Protestant, and they've just reached out to each other. Even though they've got this religious divide, it shows this unity and support that the city had in trying to just back each other and back themselves. In the image, on the bottom of the image, there's a little bit from one of the ladies' name's Betty, and it says, "We live together in peace, and our children play together, and religion doesn't come into it." And I think it just shows how people can interpret things and the way they can put things behind them. So I think it's a really strong and empowering image. The first image, I'm using again to portray this idea of identity, so the lack of having a physical identity. The reason I did it in black and white was just to kind of take away from the depth of the image and the colour, to again give it less of an identity to the actual image itself. I think with both of the images that I've chosen to use for each story, they're quite simple but very powerful at the same time. They kind of portray the message that I think I want to portray and use as an initial kind of starting point, or maybe even end point for my research for both the stories.